49ers media, I'm calling you out. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And tonight we have a special Monday edition because John Lynch spoke to the media, and I got my guy from Nothing But Niners, Nick. What's up, Nick? How you been, man?
Jesse, my man, I'm good, man. It's finally good to link up with you once again. We've been talking about doing this for a while again, but now that I got some more free time, I can actually get back on my show, can jump on in yours, can jump on more spaces. I just got all the Niner talk in the world to be said now, so we're good.
Dude, I got to be honest, Nick. I've missed you. We don't talk as much as we used to. You got this new job. You had all these things going on, but I'm happy to hear that you don't have the night job anymore, which does mean you get to dedicate more to 49ers content. And I think that's a great thing. I think also people on your channel have missed you. Mike's cool, but it's a lot of Mike, right? A lot of Mike and not a lot of Nick. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you need that mixture over there, right? So it's like people are always like, if Mike's not there, people are like, where's Mike? If Nick's not there, it's like, where's Nick?
Right. So, who's holding Mike accountable is the question, right? Nobody. He's running Ruckshaw all over Twitter, all over your channel. It's crazy.
Mike is crazy. Mike is crazy. That's my dude, man. Much love to him. And if it wasn't for him, man, Nothing But Niners might have collapsed this year. So really, truly faithful or thankful. And that he's so faithful to the channel, and he's one of the best partners you can ever have. So it's great.
Yeah, Mike's fantastic, man. He really is, and he's been holding it down with the whole March Madness thing you guys do over there. But happy that you are back. I'm glad I'm able to do this with you, man. There's a lot that happened today. I don't normally do Monday shows. Normally, I reserve that for my Patreon and my YouTube members. But today's a little bit special because John Lynch had so much to say, in my opinion. So much, yet so little. We'll go through that here in just a second. But here's what we'll do. We'll pull this up so that we can go basically question and answer by answer and just psychoanalyze everything that was said today. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, brother. So the first question, this is the one, by the way, 49ers Twitter was on fire today. People were so upset based off of what they heard. And my whole thing was, I don't think that we heard anything that was a surprise. I think we should have expected everything that we heard today. And so it's funny that all of a sudden this frustration from people that are pretty even keel has basically thrown itself forward. People were really upset. They had a lot to say about it. I've got a lot to say too, but I'm not as mad at John Lynch or the 49ers organization. I'm directing my frustration in a different direction, and we'll get there later. But the first thing that was talked about was, would you consider cutting Jimmy? And this is what John Lynch said. He said, I don't foresee that. He's too good of a player. I think Jimmy will be playing for us or will be playing for someone else. He's too good of a player not to be. What were your thoughts on that initial comment, that bombshell that basically set 49ers social media on fire today?
Business talk. That's pretty much what I take from it. Like, he's not going to go on national media or talk to our media and say, well, if we can't find a trade partner, we're going to cut Jimmy. Like, right. He's not going to say that. He's going to say he's a great player. He deserves to be on a team, whether that's our team or somebody else's team. He's not. Why would you go out there and downgrade the player you're trying to get rid of, in a sense, and go forth with saying, oh, well, he's too good of a player not to be playing football, so he'll be with us or not?
Yeah, I agree, by the way. He didn't say a lot here. Like, well, duh, he's going to be playing for somebody next year. Of course he's good enough to be rostered. I mean, for as much as said about Jimmy, I think even his staunchest, quote-unquote, haters will admit that he's a starting level quarterback. Now, I've heard some people say that he's not. I think that's nonsense. He deserves to be a starter in this league based off of 32 teams needing quarterbacks. But there's also a reason that the 49ers are looking to replace him, right? So that being said, to me, sure, he's going to be on a roster. Heck, if you cut him in August, he'll still end up on a roster playing for somebody. So I feel like this is one of those like, yeah, that's not something that we're looking to do. I can't foresee it. But he also said, no chance, right? He didn't
Right.
say that. So it is still a possibility. Right now, you can't foresee it. But if you can't trade him and all of a sudden he can pass a physical and you don't owe him that 7.5 million, I think you'll probably consider cutting him, right?
Right.
So to me, John Lynch is great at this. I call this the leadership circle, Nick. And I don't know, if you've ever had bosses like this, but you ask them a question and they kind of go around in a circle and never answer anything. John Lynch is a master at the leadership circle
He
for
is.
sure.
He is. And just like you said, like if I'm John Lynch, I'm not going to go out there and say that we're going to cut this guy because then you're going to get no trade interest and people are just going to wait for him to hit the free agent market and then go forth and say, "Oh, well, we'll just pick him up once they cut him." So there's no sense in saying that. It's all business.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get on to this next one. Did the 49ers ever receive an offer for Jimmy? Here's what he said. We are always going to hold true to what we thought his value was. Right now, we hold on to him. I think we're fortunate to have 3 quarterbacks that we believe in Trey, Jimmy, and Nate. Some people are looking for one. I think that's a position of strength. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, he's breaking it down to where saying like, "Look, we know what Jimmy's value is and whether that's high for somebody else or whether it's low for us, we're going to stick to that value." And that's not the wrong thing to say. That's not the wrong thing to do either. In this business, you can hold on to a player till the very last minute until you get what you want for that player. You have in this situation, you're in a great position. You have Trey, Jimmy, and Nate, like you said. You have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Somebody, if you get rid of Jimmy, you can hold on to him as long as you possibly can. He's not a position of need, right? So you can hold on to him as long as you can and say, okay, well, we're not willing to go down to a 5 or a 4. I don't think you're going to get more than a 3 because Matt Ryan went for a 3. Like just doing numbers and things like that statistically by quarterbacks, you're probably going to get a 3 or less. But you're in position to hold on to that value right now. Like if that's what you believe it is, then you can hold on as long as you want till you get that position. And I think that's what he's kind of saying here. Like we're in position right now to hold the leverage of what we do with Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's trade him or cut him or keep him.
Now, as a part of this, and I wasn't able to get the whole quote because it was pretty big, but he basically said that they didn't receive any offers.
Right. He
No
said there was
formal
steam.
offers.
There was steam rolling up to, and then the
Right.
injury came out with the surgery, and then that steam kind of slowed down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes up a little bit later as well. But to me, I know a lot of people don't like Florio, right? Because he talks really bad about the 49ers. He's a Vikings guy. And he pisses a lot of people off in the 49er community. But I think people are taking what he said a bit out of context. People are looking at what Florio said, talking about the 2 second round picks and saying that the 49ers were absolutely offered that. That is not at all what he said. He
Right.
said John Lynch was floating around to other teams that's what he was offered. That makes a lot of sense, right? And the reason I say that is I've got to believe that Jimmy has some value, right? I'm not saying it's a lot, but you're telling me no team would trade a future 7th round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm not saying it's that low either, but that's like the lowest of the low. There is somebody that is willing to offer something. But if John Lynch comes to you and you are, let's say, the Colts, and he says, "Hey, I heard you guys need a quarterback. You just traded Wentz. We want 2 second round picks. Well, are you willing to budge off that? Nope, that's what we expect. All right, well, have a good day. Like
Yeah.
I may have been willing to offer you something, but I'm not going to make a formal offer if you're telling me you're not willing to budge. You just said we were always going to hold true to what we thought his value is. That doesn't mean the rest of the league thinks that the value is that. That's what you think it is. So if
Right.
you think his value is 2 second round picks and you're telling that to the rest of the league and you're not willing to take less, well, then there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to offer you. I'm not going to come in and quote unquote insult you. You think he's worth 2 seconds. I'm not going to say, hey, I'll give you 2/4. The fourth next year could escalate to a third, depending on how many games he plays. Like, I'm not even going to offer that because you just said you're not taking anything less. So to me, that's the way that I read into that, is that I think the Florio rumors, I don't know if the exact rumor is true, but I think there is some credence to that rumor that they basically had a value that was higher than what the rest of the league was willing to offer. And because of that, they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and you're right. And that's the thing too. Like John Lynch could be overplaying his hand, right? Like the 49ers in general could be overplaying their hand because the rest of the league knows that you're not going to keep a quarterback on your roster at $27.5 million when you just traded up so much draft capital and you believe in the guy that you have. They're like they're going to get rid of him one way or another. They're not going to keep him there. So that I think me personally thinks that lowers the value of Jimmy Garoppolo due to the fact that other teams are looking at you saying, well, you just wasted, you just used all this draft capital to go up and get this young kid. So Jimmy's not going to be on your roster. And if he is, he's going to be on your roster this year and he's going to be a free agent next year. So do we want to spend that high draft capital knowing that A, you could cut him, B, you could trade him to somebody else and get value for him of what you want. But if those scenarios don't happen, he's going to be a free agent next year anyway. So can we get through with what we want to do this year without spending the capital and then bringing him in as a free agent next year? So I do kind of think that John Lynch and them, while they may not be purposely overplaying their hand, those are factors that could also factor in with other 31 NFL teams.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point. I think it's good to kind of give thoughts of what the 49ers could be thinking, right? Because they have a plan. Whether we agree with that plan, that's really kind of irrelevant, right?
Right.
Like they have a plan, they have something in place. So not only can we talk through why we may disagree with that, but let's also talk through why, and I think it's important that you laid that out, why or what they may be thinking that goes into this plan. I think all those things are important things to talk about. And those are things that I think when people are frustrated, they don't necessarily get into those things. They don't break them down. So
Right.
I think it's great that you brought that up, by the way. All right. So the next one is, what happened to all the promising trade talks? He says, and this was going back to what you alluded to, there were a ton of conversations, and I think there was real good momentum. Then the decision that was made for Jimmy to have surgery certainly caused a lot of teams to pause and at least slow down the process to do their due diligence. The quarterback musical chairs is going on, and and all along we understood what we really value Jimmy, or that we really value Jimmy, and never were we just going to give him away. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that have happened in this offseason, and specifically with the quarterback position. I really do believe that if the quarterback musical chairs, as John Lynch says, did not happen, Jimmy Garoppolo would have already been off this roster. But when you get a Russell Wilson trade, a Deshaun Watson clearance, an Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay, a Baker Mayfield cut or move or whatever you want to call it, uh, a Matt Ryan move, like these are
Tom
all
Brady coming back.
right. Brady coming back. These are all veterans, right? And I know Jimmy's a veteran, but these are also veterans that have worked in in a different type of system as well. Like they may be better fits than Jimmy Garoppolo is in their system. Same thing, like I said, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo would fit right in Pittsburgh because he's not a deep ball thrower. They like to stretch the field where, the 49ers don't stretch the field. And we're going to find out if it's Jimmy Garoppolo or if it's Kyle Shanahan. Like once Trey starts playing, or if Jimmy goes somewhere else and starts stretching the field. Look at Alex Smith, right? We used to call and say he never stretched the field. He went to Kansas City and did just that, right?
Right.
But in a sense, it's like I think that a lot of this has hurt Jimmy's value. I don't want to say Jimmy's value, but the ability to trade Jimmy because of all the moves. And then on top of that, Don Yee comes out and says, "Oh, we're going to get surgery." So now you just throw another monkey wrench into the system, and everybody's putting it on John Lynch and the 49ers. While they may be playing their hands high, I don't think that's the only reason why Jimmy Garoppolo is not moved yet. I think everything that's happened in the NFL is a reason why Jimmy Garoppolo is still on this roster.
Yeah, I think this is his leadership way of saying that Jimmy G fucked him.
Yeah, he
Like,
basically did.
ultimately,
Yep.
there was a ton of conversation, and I think there was real good momentum. That tells me there was momentum going into everything that happened in Indy with the combine and stuff. And then the day before the bombshell gets dropped, then the decision that was made for Jimmy to have surgery certainly caused a lot of teams to pause and at least slow down the process to do their due diligence. And I think that's exactly right. Again, I think, and he alludes to this again, we were not going to give Jimmy away for nothing. We had a price in mind. The league thought different. We're good. He's worth more to us as somebody that can push Trey Lance. Now, again, I don't agree with this at all,
Right.
but as somebody that can push Trey Lance, compete with Trey Lance, or even be a backup, then what he would be if we trade him for whatever is being offered, right? And so to me, I think he was pretty clear here. And I love this one because it's kind of in a very professional way, throwing that jab back at Yee and Jimmy. And I think that that's kind of what we've been saying all along is how that messed things up. It's very clear that they agree it certainly messed things up. And it was also clear that when they went into that combine, that they had no idea about the surgery. Yes,
Right.
they had talked about it as an option, but the fact that Yee and Jimmy decided to get surgery, they didn't consult with the 49ers. They didn't consider what the 49ers were looking to do. They don't care. They care about Jimmy G and his long term future, whether that's with the 49ers or without the 49ers. And I think that much is clear. And John Lynch was also very clear in saying, yeah, we had no idea. Like we talked about it,
Right.
yes, but they no clue. No clue.
And that's the thing too, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that Don Yee did the same thing to Jimmy Garoppolo in 2020 when the last 6 games of the season after the Niners came out and said to Jimmy that they were going to be looking for a replacement, blah 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 going into the draft. And the last 6 weeks of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo was unsure of his situation in San Francisco and Don Yee said, "Well, there's no reason to go out there and put yourself on the line. If they don't believe in you right now as the future, then we need to worry about you and your future." And that's why he didn't play the last 6 games of the season. He was ready to play, but Don Yee said not to. So he stood his ground and said, "I'm not coming back. I'm not playing. I'm going to go on the IR." And that's what he did. So,
Yeah, we've seen this from and by the way, I know people are really mad at Jimmy for making that decision. I'm not mad at Jimmy. I understand why Jimmy and his team would do that.
yep,
That's what they're supposed to do, right? Like they're worried about themselves, whatever they need to do to take care of themselves. And quite frankly, it did come out during last offseason that Jimmy G's team, right, which is his agent and what have you, was upset with how the 49ers have handled the Jimmy G situation.
yep,
Basically felt like he was mistreated for many years, kicking the tires on everybody, yet keeping him. They didn't like that. And so it's no surprise that when they have a chance to kind of stick it to the Niners back, that they absolutely did that. And for me, actually, I'll talk about it later, but I think that there's a way that you can kind of stick it back to Jimmy and Don Yee, and we'll talk about that. But there is a, not that it's tit for tat, but now you've got to worry about the 49ers. He's clearly worried about Jimmy. He's in the business for Jimmy. He should be. We got to worry about San Francisco in this organization. So
correct.
Castro comes in with the super chat. He says, I want to see the Niners versus the Raiders at the next Super Bowl. That would be super dope. I think we are going to the Niners Raiders game in Las Vegas this next year. We
Yes,
don't know
sir.
exactly when that's going to be, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are going to be there. So there you go. If you guys are thinking about going to a game, you want to meet the legend Nick from Nothing But Niners,
Don't yeah.
then we
You want to
can.
meet Jesse. You don't want to meet me. I'm 5'4" and all, 120 pounds soaking wet. So you don't want to meet me.
So
Oh,
listen, if that's what you want to do, you can do it at the at the Vegas Raiders. It's weird saying Vegas Raiders still. Vegas Raiders versus 49ers. I think we're both planning on being there. And then Tinker says, "Hey, listen, I got deep pockets. I'm not even going to watch the rest of the stream, but Deebo's not going anywhere and I need to make sure everybody sees it. Here's $50. I appreciate you, Tinker. That is super dope of you. I agree. I don't think Deebo's going anywhere. Did you see that Jed York liked a tweet today? Somebody had basically made a meme out of the Will Smith slap and
with the
said,
slap.
yeah, and said, this is what the 49ers think to any Deebo trade rumors, and Jed York liked the tweet. So
Then somebody said, my friend Keisha, she said that John Lynch retweeted it also.
oh, did he really? I didn't see that. Well, there you go. They clearly
It
don't
was either
plan
John
on
or
Deebo
Jed.
going
One of
anywhere.
those retweeted it. Yeah.
There we go. Well, we'll get to a comment about that here in a bit, but I got to show these guys love. Appreciate you guys coming
Yep.
through. Here's some love for y'all. Every time.
I
Hits
love
me
you
every
do that,
time.
man. That's awesome. I would
All
never
right,
be
here
able to
was
keep up doing stuff like that.
I don't know. It's fun for me. Gives me a minute to breathe, I guess. All right. Here was the next one. It says, would trading Jimmy change your offseason plan? Here's what John Lynch said. He said, our plan was our plan, and we were able to do everything we intended to do in free agency. We knew we wanted to fill that corner role and a number of other deals that we could piece together. And that was our plan, whether we had Jimmy or not. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the type of person that I've watched this team a long time, and I've noticed that this team is not a big spender in free agency. The organization itself, it's not even just the era of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. This team has just never really coveted cornerbacks, especially or big name free agents. Yeah, you could go and say Deion Sanders was a big one, right? Those type of guys. But really, they don't go out and spend. They don't overspend in tier one free agents. Like they just don't do it. And I think that John is saying the correct thing. Like we had a plan. And if the numbers were right with the people that we wanted, then cool, we would bring them on. But we're not going to overspend in free agency because one, you don't have the money to overspend this year. You had to restructure just to get to under the cap instead of being over. And then three, it's just like, why do you want to overspend for these guys for so many years? Like, look at the Christian Kirk signing, right? Like, that's a lot of money for a guy that's not even produced like a Deebo Samuel, right? So it's crazy amount of money. Like, you're just throwing money away at that point because it's like the teams that spend that type of money are in panic mode and they want to spend the money to bring in superstars to help and see if it helps. But I'm with John on this, man. Like they wanted to fill the corner role, they did. And a number of other deals that they could piece together. So the Armstead restructure, the D Ford restructure, which looks like he's probably going to retire now or be cut post or pre June 1st. But the Kittle restructure. There was a bunch of different things that their plan was, and they're working on that. I don't think Jimmy has anything to do with this team not spending money. I think that's just their ultimate plan is they don't. People keep continually forgetting that we've drafted positions of need for the last 2 years, and we're rushing to not even just replace these players that are here. So I agree with them.
Yeah, I think we're going to get into this in a little bit, but this is where a follow-up question would have been great from the media. That's great, John, but you did say just a couple weeks ago, March 3rd, in fact, that you did have multiple plans and that not getting rid of Jimmy, although it was a part of one of the plans, it was an option. It would curtail what you were going to do in free agency. What is the other plans? Like we know that you have this plan in place and you were able to go get Charvarius Ward and some special teams guys. But what was the other part of that plan? What if you had been able to get rid of Jimmy G? What did that look like? Because you said it would curtail you, which means that it would hamper you a little bit. Like
Right.
that's you admitting that. So there had to be another part of this plan. I know that it sounds like the cornerback position was plan A, but that doesn't mean Charvarius Ward was plan A. Was J.C. Jackson plan A, and then he became plan B? Charvarius Ward did because you had Jimmy on the. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like while I believe that the 49ers weren't going to just go crazy in free agency, I understand that. They did say, or he did say, that it would curtail them a bit. And so, what does that mean? That's the question that I have. So, he wasn't able to answer that here because there was no follow up to
And
that.
that's the same thing, like, not to cut you off, but
Yeah,
the
go.
when he talked about curtailing them, people didn't say, well, because he said, well, we have a plan with Jimmy Garoppolo on this team, or whether Jimmy Garoppolo is not on this team, but yes, he's curtailing what we do in free agency right now. And they could have said, well, what's the plan with or without him? Like, what is the plan? Like, they
Right.
don't follow up. They'll ask the same question. This is what I get really aggravated with the media, our media about, is they ask the same question in a different phrase. And
Mhm.
it's over and over and over again, or they just retweet what was just said in a presser that we can watch for ourselves. So it's just they don't it seems like I will say this though, Kyle Posey's probably one of the better question askers. And on top of that, Matt Mayoko has come a long way in the last 2 years with getting more arrogant with his questions, I guess you could say, as in attacking. But everybody else, it's just a even flow kind of day.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think they would have gone crazy. No, but there were rumors that they were in on a Chandler Jones. Could Hassan Reddick been in the plans? Like, I just feel like there's something more they could have done, right? And something was missing. What that was, how big that was, I'm not sure. But there was certainly something, but we'll never know because those questions just simply don't get asked, Nick.
They don't.
All right, this one's pretty short. Will keeping Jimmy on the roster make it awkward again? This was a question that was asked right after the question about cutting him was asked, and Lynch simply said, "I don't think it was ever awkward last year." What are your thoughts about this?
He kind of backpedaled on this though, because that's not the only thing he said. He says, I don't think it was ever awkward last year. But then again, he said something about when Jimmy was saying his farewells, he kind of indicated that it was awkward. Um, and then he's like,
I think the exact thing he said was he goes, "I don't think it was ever." It was a lot to type out, so that's why I didn't go
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
But he basically said, "I don't think it was ever awkward last year." I know that Jimmy in his press conference alluded to that, but these guys were professionals. We had, our quarterback coach and Scangarello. We had Shanahan. We had Jimmy, who's a consummate pro, and Trey. And I think that they kept it pretty well and made it not an issue in the locker room, made it a non-factor as far as being awkward. And they did what they had to do. Basically, it was
right.
essentially the full. Yep.
Yeah. So it was just weird. But I do think that you had a divided locker room last year at a point. And I think it was in the beginning of the season when we were losing, obviously 3-5 or whatever it was, and something clicked and went forward. But yeah, I mean, does it really matter if you think it was awkward? What are these? You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
my question.
Yeah, I mean, he probably didn't think it was awkward sitting in the press box. Like, I'm sure it wasn't awkward. And here's the thing. Again, this is a great initial question, but where's the follow-up, right? So I agree. It probably wasn't quote unquote awkward between Jimmy and Trey, right? Is the way that he's taking that question. Maybe it never was awkward. Shay, geez, this guy.
He's so
Um,
stupid.
maybe it never was awkward between those guys, right? And I believe that I don't think it ever necessarily did get awkward, but the follow-up question could have dug into this deeper. All right, hey, maybe asking if it was awkward was the wrong way to go about that, John. Let me try this again. Do you think the players were getting tired of being asked the questions on who would start? And do you think that lingering into this season can become an issue? Right. And so, because that's a whole different thing. I don't know about you, but I remember week 3 of the preseason when the 49ers and the Chargers were scrimmaging against each other. At that point, only 3 weeks into the preseason, George Kittle was already frustrated. He
Mhm.
was already tired of the questions. He was already pissed off about the questions. And then that lingered through the whole season. And we've seen it again this offseason. So do you think that George Kittle is going to really love a whole nother full season of these questions or
Yep.
through training camp, whenever this thing ends? No, he's going to hate it. That's a question that should have been asked. That's the follow up. And again, 49ers media leaves us desiring more. Shay says, huge fan here. Can I please get y'all's autograph? It would mean the world to me. I've been listening to you guys since I was in diapers.
Shay, I got you, bro. I'm gonna send it out right now. Look, it even says touche on it. Look, I got you, bro. I'm gonna send it in the mail right now. They'll put it in an envelope. I'll even put my phone number on there for you. You give me a text, a call anytime. You got girl issues or anything, you can just send me a message, bro.
Oh my god, dude. Shay's the best, by the way. I know that you got to meet him in
Oh
person.
yeah, great dude.
We obviously talk on Twitter all the time. I'll get the pleasure of meeting him in Vegas. So maybe we aren't people that you care to meet. Maybe Shay is somebody you want to meet in Vegas. He'll
Yep.
also be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I absolutely love it. I love the trolling from Shay. I appreciate you. Here is some love for you. Boy, that one doesn't hit me the same after last night and what happened at the Oscars. The
Right?
whole, the, no pun intended, by the way, with what I just said. It's just a little bit different. I might have to change that one. Not gonna lie. All right, here's the next one. We got 2 more. So they did ask, what does it all mean for Trey? And, with Jimmy being on the roster. And he says, there's a lot of questions on what this means for Trey. The great news is that we're extremely positive, as I've said and Kyle has said, on Trey's progress. This offseason, he'll have ample opportunity, as will Nate, to get plenty of reps. And we're looking forward to that process. What did you take away from this quote?
This one's hard, right? Because this one kind of threw me off because you didn't mention Jimmy's name in there, right? So you're mentioning Trey and Nate as third parties to Jimmy Garoppolo, even though you didn't state Jimmy Garoppolo's name in here. Is this saying that Trey and Nate will have their opportunity to take over the starting role from Jimmy Garoppolo, where they get plenty of ample opportunity and plenty of snaps, or is it these two will get plenty of snaps to see where progress is at? So I was kind of confused on this quote, I guess you could say, from John Lynch.
Yeah, see, and again, 49ers media,
It's not a good
um,
follow up, right?
it's right. So here's the deal. The way that I take this question is they're gonna get plenty of time early in OTAs and training camps because Jimmy can't throw, right?
Yep.
So of course they're gonna get plenty of time. And they've talked about how it's going in the past. He talked about how they are not afraid of a QB competition between Jimmy and Trey, right?
Right.
And for me, that's all fine and dandy, but what does that competition look like? So I want to know, all right, sure, early on that's going to be the case, but when Jimmy comes back, how do you foresee that going if he's on the roster still, right? You said that there is still chance to trade him, whatever's going to happen, but let's assume that doesn't happen. Does a competition to you, what does that look like? Is that a 50-50 split? Because you've also said that Trey Lance needs 10,000 reps. How is he going to get those reps if he's splitting with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Also, does that mean that Jimmy gets all the first team reps and he has to come in and win the job? Like, what does all that look like? There's so many follow-up questions that can be asked. And again, it's for me, John Lynch is going to answer them however he answers them. but we can do, or they can do a better job of following up on these things, in my opinion. So
100%.
Shay says he loves you, by the way. Absolutely loves you. What's up, Aaron? 49ers first takes. Love that guy, Aaron. Such a good dude. Okay. Last one is, I think this is the last one. Yeah, it is. All right. Does having Jimmy on the roster impact Deebo or Bosa re-signings? He said it could bring the cap down. There's a number of different directions we could go there, but we're excited about the opportunity to have those guys with us for a long time. So basically, what he's saying here, actually, believe it or not, we can re sign them in a way that could bring their 2022 cap number down and help us out eventually. What did you think about this comment?
I mean, I just think that they're this, like I said earlier, this has no impact on what they can do with players and signing, because there's so many different ways you can give fully guaranteed money. You can change the way the contract's written to where they receive all their money in 2023, where it really starts to kick in, like where they get a low cap hit this year at 1.2, 1.7 million, whatever it may be, and then their money starts to kick in as the money raises for the cap. So there's so many different ways. I've been stuck on this from the beginning, telling people that Jimmy Garoppolo, whether he's on this roster or not on this roster, has no impact of us being able to sign other players.
Thank you. And over the last week, I got so frustrated because a lot of people that I really respect their opinions, a lot of smart people were throwing out that, oh, they're reserving, even if Jimmy's not on the roster, they'd reserve that money for re-signing Deebo and re-signing Bosa. And I'm like, no, that has no bearing.
None.
Do you not know how rookie extensions work? Either their cap number stays the same or it goes down or it goes
Yep.
up minimally, depending on how you work that deal. Sure, future money potentially could go towards that, but right now it has no bearing, none whatsoever. In fact, if you were going to go after another free agent, you could front load the hell out of their deal so that you can fit them under the future cap while the Bosas, the Debos, the Kittles, the Williams, the Armsteads, their money goes up. So there's so many things that they can do. But the ultimate thing that you said, and it's very important, it's exactly what I've been saying. It has zero impact on re signing them for this season.
Nope.
Zero whatsoever. And I'm glad that John Lynch said that because I think 49er fans needed to hear that because I hear it all. I see it, I read it, I hear it all over the place. And again, a lot of people I respect are saying it, but it never made any sense to me because that's not how extensions work with rookies. It's just not. It's never worked that way. So,
Yep. 100%. No impact
um,
whatsoever.
yeah, literally no impact. Okay, let's remove this here. Boom, there we go. Full fledged. There's our faces. Let me change this over real quick. Hold, please. Hold, please. All right. So we just talked a lot about how the media didn't answer or ask follow-up questions. Do you think 49ers media needs to be held more accountable?
100%. 100%. And that like you were talking about, man, it's just I feel like the very first question that is asked in a presser is what the next person is going to ask as well. And it's just a trickle down. It's just, okay, I may say, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be your starter? And that question gets answered. And then the next person says, well, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be your starter next year? Like, I just feel like it's the same question, just asked in a different perspective.
I feel
And
it.
you've even heard our players say, well, I'll try to explain this again because that was just asked, 2 questions ago, but let me try to rephrase how I answered it. Maybe I didn't answer it correctly. When you have players doing that, like, I feel like our media has no couth behind them. And what I mean by that is they're afraid to ask these questions and they're afraid of the appearance that they're putting out. This is why I love Grant Cohn when he asks questions. He doesn't care. Like, he's doing a job. And that's what your job is, to report to us as fans and the social world as to what we want to know, because we can't physically ask that question. So, yeah, 100% they need to be held accountable. I just don't think – go to New York media. They don't care. Like, they're going to ask you the hardest questions that you possibly can think and make you sit. You heard was it Ray Ray
It
or
was
was it
Charvarius Ward.
Charvarius Ward? Was like, they asking some dumbass questions. Like, bro, like they do every week. I get tired of listening to pressers because it's the same shit.
You don't ever learn anything new. And did you watch the Cleveland Browns introductory press conference with Deshaun Watson at all?
Oh, they hammered him.
Oh, dude.
Hammered him. But
If
that would
Deshaun
never
Watson
happen
was on
though.
the 49ers, that would never happen. And this is where my beef is, right? I think a lot of people expected me to come on and get on John Lynch and be frustrated. And to me, again, I want to be very clear. The way John Lynch answered questions today and what he said was no surprise to me. Like, I've already been frustrated with Jimmy being on the roster for a multitude of different reasons. Today was not the day. Like, I've already gone through that emotion. Okay. I was frustrated today with the 49ers media. So many follow-up questions could have been asked. But I think what happens is, first of all, twofold. One, I think a lot of people, too many media members, are in the back pockets of the 49ers, right? And I tweeted out yesterday saying, I bet you the first exclusive interviews with 49ers brass is going to be with people like Jennifer Lee Chan and Matt Mayoko, because they're in the back pockets, right? They're not
Yep.
going to ask anything tough. And the 49ers know that. And then what happens is you go to the presser, I go to the presser, you ask my question, and instead of me thinking on the fly and going, oh, let me follow up with that and get a good answer here, I just, oh, shoot, I got to rephrase my questions so that it's not exactly like his, but I'm going to get the same answer. It's so frustrating. And I think, all right, 49er fans, a lot of 49er fans don't like Grant, okay? They think he's negative, whatever else. And I remember when he asked Jimmy Garoppolo about John Lynch liking the tweet, right? And we all know what tweet he's talking about, where he was accidentally in Sunday Mass and liked to tweet about leaving Jimmy in Tennessee after the Tennessee game right before Christmas. And a lot of 49er fans got so upset with Grant for asking that question in that moment. They said it wasn't the time. The team's trying to make a playoff push. Wait until after the season to ask those questions. It's like, no, these things have to be asked in a timely manner. Do you know how weird it would have been if Grant waited 4 weeks and asked that question? It wouldn't make any sense. But if Grant didn't ask that question, nobody else would. And that's what sucks, is Grant doesn't go to all the off-season stuff, for whatever reason. And so we get all these patsy questions. I understand you may not like Grant as far as his hypothetical, let's trade George Kittle, whatever else. These are separate things. You have Grant, the journalist, right, who I think asks the best questions around, at least is willing to go out on a limb and ask something tough. And then you have Grant, the entertainer, who does his YouTube stuff. Those things are separate, right? And what Grant does as a journalist, I don't know how you can't respect that. And Grant, by the way, for as tough as he can be, wouldn't be anything in some of these other media markets that we talk about.
Yep.
These guys need to be held more accountable. Every single one of them ask the same questions. They say the same things. They write their articles based off of what the answer is. All they do, it's an article full of quote, 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 based off the question, and then they move on. Or
I think they copy each other's tweets. Like, it's the same exact tweet that comes out from every beat writer.
Yep. Every single one of them. Or they are even worse, and they try to say things like, oh, we knew this was the 49ers plan. Oh, word, because a month ago they said that wasn't their plan. What do you mean this was the 49ers plan? They said they had multiple plans. Like, what are you talking about? And the fact that you think 49er fans are dumb enough to fall for it, yes, I get that there's a group that loves the soft pitch questions. They don't want to speculate anything. During the offseason, they tune out for the most part because they don't want to talk about what they deem as nonsense. Sure, there is certainly a group that loves the Matt Mayokos, and I'm not saying these are bad people, but loves the way that they talk about the team and report, and that's great for them. But then there's also a group of fans like us that go through the whole offseason, come up with content, care about what's going on, try to break everything down, and we're going, dude, what do we need you for? Like, what do we need you for? You're not doing anything that we couldn't answer for ourselves. There's nothing that you bring to the table. Ask a tough question every once in a while, follow up, get something. Now, does John Lynch or Shanahan answer those questions? I don't know, but that's not your job is to get a great answer. Your job is to ask a tough question and keep asking it until you get the answer you want or you hear something different. That's what your job is. So for me, it's just super frustrating because I just don't think that there's a point in following these guys, right? They're not trendsetters. They're not doing anything crazy. And most of them have realized that they're not trendsetter or setters. That's why they themselves are starting to go to YouTube because that's where the money is, right? Like they're not doing anything special for their articles. You're going to hide behind a paywall and just give me quotes of something that I just watched. Great, man. Thank you so much for your efforts. I'm glad I pay $5 a month for this. Like, no, there's no reason for it. I don't know, man. It's super, super frustrating. Obviously, I don't live anywhere near the Bay. So, getting media access isn't worth it for me. I'm never going to move cross country, but I wish that I did have media access. Hell, anytime we're in Twitter spaces, Nick, and a player comes in, I immediately fire off with a question that everybody's like, whoa, like that was direct. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to know. Like, why would we not? Are we just gonna sit here and kiss his feet because he's in our Twitter spaces? No, ask this man a tough question. Press him a
Yep.
little bit. It's okay. If he doesn't want to stay, he can leave. But he chose to be here. Ask him something tough. Like there are things that you've always wanted to know. Don't sit here and be like, oh my God, it's a player in here. That's awesome. Ask him something tough. Please.
Yep.
One time.
And I feel like, going back to some of the things that you said is like the follow-ups and the questions in general just aren't there. And I feel like when media availability is going to be. You know who's talking. They put an email out of who's talking, what time they're talking, and I feel like there's no research or studying done from our media. They just go into the thing and they just ask the first question that pops up and they follow each other's narrative. Like they don't go like Grant. Like that's what I like I said about Kyle Posey and Grant. They ask actual football questions or they ask the questions that we're all wondering. And where you get your other beat writers that stay on the same beating path and ask the same question thinking that they're going to get a different answer in a different way. Do some research of the things. Listen to the fans, what they're asking. Things. There's a lot of knowledgeable fans out there. And we tweet at you guys, asking you specific questions. And instead of answering it your way, ask the question at a presser. Like, don't just answer it as to what you think. Go into the presser and say, hey, this fan base is wondering what's your plans with Jimmy Garoppolo? What is such and such, whatever it may be. But you got to stop feeling like you're going to lose your job because that's what a journalist is. They're supposed to ask the questions that everybody else is wondering. And I feel like you said, the Niners have people in their pockets, right? And I think that's another reason why there's not a lot of leaks within the 49ers organization anymore. I think they do have a little bit more control over the media, but you should still be able to ask those questions. They're not questions that are asking you, hey, how much money are you planning on spending in this free agency? Like, you're not asking stupid questions. You're asking questions that pertain to the team at this minute and your future of the team, as in, obviously, you're not going to tell us, you're going to tell us as a player or anything else. Like, you're going to tell us the business perspective of it. But you can follow up with those questions and put a little bit of pressure on them to see if they'll slip or see if they say something different. I'm just in 100% agreement with you, Jesse. I've been saying this for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, I just feel like, this organization is afraid to ask the questions that need to be asked, as in the organization of the media. So we'll see. I mean, and did you see Kiana Martin's leaving now too?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Going to MLB Network, which I actually liked her. I didn't like her interview processes because I just felt like she was pressing, but crazy, man.
Deaderhead and Jason, I understand you don't have to like Grant, right?
Yep.
You don't have to like his YouTube content. You don't have to like the way he carries himself on social media. None of that pertains to what I'm talking about, right? I personally do like Grant. Grant has been nothing but nice to me. I've become good friends with Grant. I know Grant the person, and I really like Grant the person, right? You don't like what he portrays, but I know who he is, and I really like him for that. But Grant, the person that gets up and is a journalist and asks questions, he's the only one that's going to ask something tough. So maybe you don't like those tough questions. That's okay. Everybody likes something different. But I think every single team needs that guy. Like we need that guy. We need those tough questions. We have
Yep.
to hear it. To me, I'm tired of the patsy questions. I'm tired of everybody being in the back pocket of the team. And I know what to expect from every single press conference. It's the same stuff over and over and over. And to your point, yes, there are some, good beat writers. There's some people that are willing to take a risk. And in fact, I didn't have an issue with the individual questions today. I have an issue with the lack of follow up. I have the issue with the lack of pressing John and making him feel uncomfortable. Nobody's willing to do those things. That's what your job is. Your job is to ask follow up questions. Your
Yep.
job is to get a story. Like that's the whole point of why you exist. If you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job at the best of the ability. So that's just me. I'm personally, like I said, super frustrated with the way that they ask questions or don't ask follow up questions. I just think that our media they need a kick in the pants. And again, if you disagree with what I'm saying, Charvarius Ward in his very first interview thought the mic was off, turns and says, these questions were dumb as hell, basically.
Yep. They asking some dumbass
One
questions.
time, this guy goes from one media group to another in the very first presser. You can't even ask him good questions the first time around. He thinks your questions are dumb already. Wait till he gets to the regular season. Wait till he gets to training camp and he hears the same dumb questions over and over and over. It's the same stuff. Let me say this, Nick, you know this. Being a content creator is extremely tough. It's hard because we go multiple times a week. There's only, especially during the off season, right now, it is so hard to come up with content. And I'm
Hence the
proud to
reason we've
say,
been stuck on the Jimmy Garoppolo stuff all off season.
right, because there has been nothing else. People are like, oh, talk about something else. What do you want us to talk about? If I talk about something else, none of you watch. If I put Jimmy Garoppolo in my thing, you're gonna be there, right? Like it's just the way that it works. But the bottom line is this: 4 times a week, I come up with content for hour-long shows
Yep.
every single week, whether it's the off season, whether it's regular season, playoffs, whatever. I come up with content for 4 shows a week. Okay. If I can do that, you're telling me these guys couldn't take an extra hour to come up with some really good questions and basically expecting a certain answer and having a follow-up question, or they're not witty enough to listen to a question and have a quick response, or I don't know, man. I know how hard it is to be on this side of things. I think it's a lot easier to be on that side of things. A
Yeah, but
lot easier.
you have front hand experience with it. Like you're there, you can see the things. Like so they get so much more. We only see, me and you, especially being, on the East Coast, me and you only see the videos that are put out of practices and training camps and things like that. Whereas we were there, we could ask questions about things that are physically going on. And I just feel like there's lack of preparation. Like that's what I really feel like. And it's not saying that they're doing their job wrong because that's maybe the way they've done their job their entire careers. But for us as, huge content creators or above average fans or super fans, whatever you want to call us, there's more we need to know. And I think they need to be held accountable, and they need to start asking these types of questions and stop backpedaling when the hard question is supposed to be asked. Like, you know, it, whether you get the right answer or the answer that you're looking for, at least the question's asked. And somebody else can press on it and say, "Oh, well, I didn't like the way he answered that. Let me dig into it a little bit deeper."
Mhm.
That doesn't happen, and that's what we're trying to explain.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, again, I want to be clear about this. The team does not owe us anything as far as giving us answers, right? Obviously, it sounds like we're unruly fans potentially, and we're expecting all these great. No, I don't expect anything from the team. John Lynch doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't have
Yep.
to tell me, he doesn't have to tell you, none of that. And I don't expect him to. But that's not the point. The point is, as a media member, you press him and you make him answer. Maybe he is willing to give more, but you're not willing to ask, right?
Yep.
Maybe he's not. Maybe the results are the same. All I know is there is certainly ways to ask follow-up questions and using what he said in the past to set that up. Or like you said, if you're chicken shit, that's cool. Use the fans. Hey, you know what? I threw out on my social media today what questions they want you to ask. Here's 3 questions the fans wanted me to ask.
Yep.
Cool. Hide behind the fans I don't
That's
care.
what I'm
Do
saying.
it
If
how
you're afraid to do it, hide behind us.
exactly, because we will do it, right? And so to me, like I said, I feel like we should hold media members more accountable to asking poignant, good questions, especially follow-up questions. That's what's owed to us. You guys, without you, this YouTube channel doesn't exist, right?
Yep.
And so it would be, frankly, it would be arrogant of me if I was getting suggestions from you guys on a regular basis and I never took the time to reply, respond, interact, or change, or at least entertain changing or address why I'm not changing based off of things that you're asking me. That would be so arrogant of me, right? Yet we have media members that are extremely arrogant. And if you question them, they're rude to you.
Hmm.
They don't care that you pay for their content or you pay their way. They don't care. And they tell you they don't care. And then they act like you're stupid and you don't know what you're talking about. I can tell you, interacting with you guys through these chats, interacting with you guys through YouTube, Twitter Spaces, social media, what have you, I can tell you with 100% certainty, and interacting with a lot of other fan bases, this is bar none the smartest, most knowledgeable fan base that there is. No question about it. None. You guys are informed. You care about the team. You dig into things. You question why things are the way that they are. You don't take things at face value. And I think these media members need to be pressed more. I think we misdirect sometimes our frustration. They need a little bit of that. They need a kick in the pants. That's all I'm saying. Take with this what you will. I'm gonna press them. I am pressing them. Maybe they'll hear it. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will care. Maybe they won't. But I just think that they're doing a disservice if they have multiple people coming at them suggesting or asking or demanding change. And if you don't get a response, stop following these people. Like there's no reason for it. You can go on 49ers YouTube and watch the whole interview today. Or you can follow Brad or Nick or myself. We'll tell you what was said because we did watch it. You don't have to go read these articles, right? There's nothing in it for you that's so important that you're going to miss out on. Literally nothing. So hold these people accountable. They deserve to be held accountable. Just like if I'm not doing what you're looking for me to do to gain your subscription, by the way, make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already, if you're liking the content. But if you are frustrated with the way I'm delivering things, ask me. I interact with everybody. Like that's what I owe to you guys because without you, this whole shit doesn't exist. So, anyways, that's my rant.
I'm
Moving on.
like, we need like 49ers content creators against 49ers media calling you out.
Calling you out, man. I'm telling you. Gosh, so frustrating. All right. Last topic before we get out of here. Is there any way, in your opinion, that the 49ers can save face with this whole Jimmy Garoppolo offseason?
Yeah.
or is it too late?
I mean, I still think there's chance to save face because the way they save face is by getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. Like once he's off this roster, this fan base will be right back to what they're feeling. I mean, it may be split a little bit because you have your Garoppolo fans and you have your Lance fans and you have those fans that don't really care who starts because they only root for the team. But I think they can save face as in move on and show us why you spent so much capital to go up and get a rookie and let him take over, and we'll live with the consequences from there. And I think that's the way you save face. If you allow Jimmy Garoppolo to play under contract again for one more year, this fan base is in trouble. Like that, it's gonna blow up. Like the fans are gonna blow up.
Yeah, again, I alluded to it earlier, and I'm going to basically break it down now, but the 49ers now owe Jimmy Garoppolo nothing.
Yep.
He went and had surgery. They knew that was a possibility, but he clearly did it at an inopportune time for the 49ers. They owe this man zero, right? They've tried to do right by him. Rumor was that Washington was willing to offer something. He didn't want to go to Washington. They didn't even entertain a trade to Washington, right? Let's assume that's true. You don't owe him anything anymore. This is a cold hearted business. If it's me, I'm waiting till this man can throw a football and pass a physical, and I'm cutting him.
Yep. That's right.
Period. I'm
Because
taking that
you don't
25
lose the
million.
7.5 million at that point.
Exactly. I'm taking that full 25 million. I'm rolling it over to next year because guess what? 25 turns into 50 because you can double up on what you carry over from one season to the next. It's something that they should have done last year so that they had 50 million to play with this offseason.
Yep.
They didn't do it. Now they have the opportunity to do it yet again. Now, my question is will they do that? I personally don't know if they will. I it's hard for me to have confidence, and here's what sucks. The 49ers have done a fantastic job of building this roster, right? Clearly, they've brought it from what it was in 2017 to making it a Super Bowl contender twice over. They deserve so much credit for that. So much credit for what they did in building this roster because overall they've done a hell of a job. Where they've faltered repeatedly is the quarterback position. All the
Mhm.
way from 2017, they've had blunders. Whether it was not looking at Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, whether it was not going after Tom Brady when he was available, whether it was moving up to number 3, taking a kid and then sitting him. Now we've got this situation again. Will they make the right decision? And this is the one thing I trust what they're going to do going into their 6th offseason, Nick. Whatever their plan is, I have full trust in how they're going to build and complete this roster. I really do, except for that one position. That's the one position that I have zero trust in when it comes to the 49ers making the right decision. And I don't trust them here. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I 100% agree with you. From 2017, like, okay, we don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is what he should have been. And I'm saying that because of after injury, he was not the same guy in the pocket, out of the pocket, whatever you want to say. But that's one position that I even say right now that I'm not worried about Trey. I'm more worried about his development because we haven't seen a quarterback really developed on this roster. That has been one of the hardest positions that we've seen has faltered on this staff. And you draft guys in the third round like CJ Beathard. You bring in undrafted guys like Nick Mullins. And while you win with some of them, you passed over guys that should have been on this roster for lack of experience picking a quarterback, I guess you could say. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't know what they're gonna do. And if Jimmy's off this roster, I still have an issue with my expectations are really low for Trey in the beginning because of the fact that I don't know how well Kyle Shanahan can coach him, and I just need to see it. So I'm with you on it, man. I'm with you. I'm not sure what they're gonna do. Obviously, we know what we want them to do. Um, but I've seen this team do some stupid things. So who knows? Who really knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy says, Jesse, Jimmy G has been like a brother to you. Are you going to let him roam the streets without food, water, and a toilet? I don't even know what that means, Tommy, but I think it's hilarious. Jimmy has been like a brother to me. I agree. I'm never going to let him starve with his hundreds of millions of dollars. I won't let it happen. I promise you. You heard it here. I won't let it happen. Let me show you some love for the comment. Here you go, brother.
I need
I'll
you
get one.
one time for $100 comment or $100 donation to do that dance. That's what we need. We need you to do that dance. I'm gonna come on
Jeez.
here with a $100 donation one day, and I need you to do your dance.
It might take more than that, Nick. It might take more than that. I think this is a good question because this came up in Twitter Spaces. What about Trey Sermon? What are your thoughts on Trey Sermon? Like, how do you view Trey Sermon? Are you worried that they spent a third round pick and this guy's not going to be used? Like, how do you view Trey Sermon this upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Trey all along has been a running back that was drafted for Trey Lance. Um, he ran some outside zone. I think this team really shifts to a power run next year, more power run than outside zone. And I think that's why they drafted him. And I don't think they had plans to really start Elijah Mitchell last year or Trey Sermon. I think, with the injury to Jeff Wilson and him coming back late, the injury to Raheem Mostert, you heard Elijah Mitchell say he was supposed to be the third down back going into the season. And obviously, injuries and players not coming back right away kind of excelled their time frame as to play. But I do believe that Trey Sermon was drafted for the type of offense that Trey Lance is going to run, along with Aaron Banks as well. Um, and I think we see more of Trey Sermon this year.
There you go. Chips answered his own question. Banks and Sermon saved for Lance. Yeah, that's exactly true. And I know a lot of people were frustrated with it. There was the whole he stripped his social media, 49ers, anything 49ers related. Little bizarre, right? But that being said, it's all back. It's all good. Maybe that's some growing up he had to do. But the glimpse of Trey Sermon was right there. The second half of that Seahawks game, that first Seahawks game, when Jimmy got injured and Trey came in, you got to see exactly what it looks like with Trey Sermon. And it
Yep.
looked a lot better and a lot different with Trey Lance right there next to him, right?
Yep.
He was a lot more comfortable with what was going on. Yes, I do believe that Banks and Sermon were drafted to play with Trey. Remember last year when they drafted all these guys and there was the Kyle Shanahan bully season merch getting sold by everybody? Everybody's posting bully season. Yes, it will be bully season.
Yep.
I still believe that they have a plan to go with bully season, but it was on hold because Trey wasn't playing. And the moment that Trey plays, I think Sermon and Banks become more viable options. I really do. I think
Yep.
they fit with what Trey Lance was brought in to do. And I think that we're going to see that this year. And I think it'll play out great.
I'm with you on that.
Lee, Quest for Six, says 49ers are lucky to have content creators like you, Keep It Real 100, Jess, Nick, Tony, Vish, Jordan, Rob, Grant, Vish twice because he's that good. I rarely listen to the media and the 49ers beat writers. Keep up the great work. Who is your draft crush? I can tell you my draft crush. It's been the same guy the whole time. It's Marcus Jones because I believe they can get him in the third. I think he's a weapon as far as special teams. I think he can fight for that nickel corner spot. He just does so much. He's so versatile, and where they can get him is extremely important for me. So for me, it would be Marcus Jones would be my draft crush. I don't know if you even had time to put any thought into the draft, brother. So if
Dude,
you
I
don't
have
have
not.
one, don't
I'm going
add.
to be
Yeah,
digging into the draft probably this week, probably starting this week sometime. Um, but no, I don't usually get draft crushed either. Just because there's always chances they're not going to come to us anyway.
for sure.
Especially with us picking where we're at. But I will dig into the draft this year. But I do you touched on the nickel spot, man. Like what are your thoughts on that going into the season real quick? I just want to ask you um about Emmanuel Mosley, Ambry Thomas, and Charvarius Ward. What are you doing with those three?
Well, I mean, I think one thing that I thought they could do is I thought Emmanuel Mosley could kick into that nickel spot. I really did. So I figured you would have Mosley, Charvarius Ward, and then whenever you go nickel, you bring in Ambry to play outside. You kick Mosley inside. I don't know if they'll necessarily go with that route. I think Lynch actually was asked a question along the way. He said that was a big reason why they brought back Darqueze Dennard because they felt like he could play that position. He played it a little bit for the team last year towards the tail end of the season when he was signed. And also he mentioned Diamador Lenore with his frame was drafted for that as well.
Right.
So, maybe they go a different direction, but I really think they have a lot of options here at corner, a lot of really good options. I still think that they should try to draft one to help compete, and especially somebody that can play special teams. Again, you can't have too many special teams aces. I think the 49ers are doing a great thing.
That's what they're
Goes
definitely
on,
doing this year.
dude, and it's great, right? Like it goes under the radar because it's not sexy. You want the big name, you want an offensive guy for Trey, you want another defensive guy, what have you. But special teams is important. We saw what happened in the Green Bay game. The reason they even advanced to the NFC Championship was because of special teams, right? So it is important. And the fact that they're spending money to go out and make it and show that it's important is fantastic. It's
And you made a coaching change finally when your team
right.
has been pretty much last place in special teams for the entire tenure. So
Absolutely. So
I'm glad to see that they're making those under the radar moves that people don't even realize. And you got to remember too, Tarvarius Moore's coming back this year too.
yeah,
Like
it's true.
there's guys on this roster that people keep forgetting about. Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks, Tarvarius Moore, like guys that were drafted to play certain positions and have either had injury history, well, being injured, or just haven't had the chance to beat somebody out. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this season, and we'll see. And I can't falter this team for building through the draft like they have because we've been to a Super Bowl and 2 NFC championships in 4 years. So they're obviously doing something right with the roster. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I agree. I want to reiterate that. I definitely like what they've done. They deserve a lot of credit for that. It's just that
You just got to
quarterback
get that
spot.
quarterback position fixed. That's
Figure it
it.
out, which is the most important position, by the way. Just figure it
Crazy,
out. My
man.
gosh, it's nuts. All right, brother. Thank you so much for joining me. I know this was last minute for both of us. I appreciate you tapping in. We got up to over 200 watching at one point. If you are not, for any reason, subscribed to Nothing But Niners, Mike and my man Nick here do a fantastic job over there. They're the OGs. I'm sure you are subscribed, but if you're not, check out Nothing But Niners. And then also, if you're not subscribed over here, please do hit that like button. It helps the algorithm. By the way, when we get to 5,300 subscribers, we're less than 400 away, giving away a Mitchell and Ness Joe Montana jersey. All you have to do is comment on all the videos between now and then to be entered. Simple, very, very simple. Subscribe so you know when we do that giveaway, but it is an awesome jersey, a great giveaway, something you guys should be excited about. And like I said, we're less than 400 away from actually doing so. So make sure when this stream is over, you go into the comment section, you comment anything that you want, suggestion, love, hate, I don't care. You'll still be entered in to win. And like I said, it's free. All you got to do is just make a quick comment. So,
That's
all right,
crazy.
brother. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic night. I'll be back tomorrow with Sunil. Peace.
Peace.